Hi, I'm Peggy.
I'm Laura.
And we are
Urban
Booz. Yeah, I got my jacket on, but here we go. We have with us a special guest, but we have to do this the right way, the Urban Booz way.
The Urban Booz way.
We're going to talk about this book and how we doing it the Urban Booz way. We're bringing it in with a hurricane.
Hurricane. There we go.
So the title of the book is Home for the Hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
We have this extraordinary person here with us, and we are so happy that she was able to join the table, the Zoom table. She is a poet and author, obviously, a D&I leader, and a real estate investor. And you see, with us, we always have to do 5 different things.
Right.
We do.
We have to be brilliant, and others are allowed to be basic, and that's what it is.
And Miss Nikki Murphy here is an example of Black girl magic.
Mm-hmm. She is that brilliance.
That's right. She is that brilliance. Snap, 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 snap.
Thank you.
So without further ado, here's Miss Nikki Murphy, poet of Home for Hurricanes. And I
oh my gosh. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. I'm so glad to be with you both, Peggy and Laura. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. So this book, which is out, but by the time everyone sees this, came out yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help, I had a roller coaster of emotions, girl, when I read that. I was like, yeah.
Not scary. It just took us places. Sometimes there was a little jolt, and it was thrilling.
Yes.
It was thrilling.
Yes.
Exactly. So I got the impression, I said, this seems autobiographical, but at the same time, cathartic.
Yes. Absolutely. I wanted to take readers on that, a taste of the roller coaster that I had been through.
That was a taste?
Mm-hmm.
Girl, I was like, let me get buckled the hell up after a couple of, I was like, woo! So why did you even create this book? What brought it out of you?
Yeah, so I was on my way to work one day on the Long Island Railroad, commuting to Manhattan for work. And I got the idea, I don't know where from, it just came that I should just write a poetry book. I should just collect some of the poems that I'd written a couple of years prior, see what themes exist, and put those experiences into a book. And I had rationalized that it wouldn't take that much work. I'm a busy career woman with a 4-year-old, a husband, a house, everything. And I'm commuting an hour and 15 minutes a day. So I'm like, I have no time to write a book.
Yep.
So I was actually tricked into writing this book by God. And so I went to work thinking it'll be a piece of cake. I get home, I print out all the poems, put it together, and from then, that was early 2019 until basically a few months ago, I'd been writing new content and working on this book and revising. But really, I wanted to write the book that I wish somebody would have written for me as a young career professional, and seeing so many successful women, successful Black women, not just in corporate, but just in life, and then wondering what they had been through, if they had come from neighborhoods like I had come from, and what are the stories behind their resilience and their brilliance and their success. And I said, you know what? It's time for me to stop being silent about what I've been through and actually write some of those things in this book so that girls, women who have been through similar experiences could, one, find community and camaraderie and feel seen with this book, but then also have some hope that things do turn around and you not only survive these traumatic experiences, but that you can also thrive after experiencing some very traumatic things.
Well, that's the thing that really struck me in reading the book: the love of your mother, the love of her mother, the love of your father's grandmother.
Yes.
Your maternal grandmother. And it's like all of this love, it's like, you're beautiful. Don't let them tell you you're not beautiful. You're strong. Watch how you talk to me. Basically teaches other people, watch how when your mother tells you that enough times, you will take that with you. And when somebody gives you some sass, you'll say, watch that tone. Watch how you talk to me.
what
Absolutely.
I thought that the Black experience, it just really spoke to me because there was a couple of things in there, you know, and it's just one poem that Laura and I both like, and it was almost like I heard my mother telling me the same thing about. Okay, let me pull it out because I marked it. God, which one? You know, and I had it, Laura. We were
It
just
was something to cry about.
Something to cry about.
Yes.
It's page 15, something to cry about. And
Okay.
that's something we
Because my mother said it to me. My mother said that to me.
I think every Black mother.
Something to cry about.
So, you know, so it made me think, okay, so intrinsically, are we that genetically connected that your mother, my mother, Laura's mother said the same thing? I mean, the same thing.
And there's a lot of geography. I mean, my mother was born in Mississippi, raised in Pennsylvania. So there's, you know, yours says it, you know, you talk about Wine Dance Day and one of your things. So you're Long Island, and your mom was young when she had you. So she's not the same generation as my mother. So, you know, but she said that. And, you know, I am not one of your little friends. Ooh.
Right.
It was like, you give me flashbacks.
A big flashback. I ain't one of your friends, girl. You know? I mean,
it's
and
all these colloquialisms that have been passed
Right.
down generation over
Right,
generation.
your mother's from, and my mother is from Tennessee and was raised in the Bronx. But can you still see how intrinsically they were all connected? They said the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, and there's another one in there that, you know, it was a haiku, for Renaissance children.
Oh yeah.
And look, I wanted to be a fashion designer, an artist. You know, I got accepted to art and design as a kid in fashion industry. And my mother's like, you better learn how to type.
Right.
So I was like, why couldn't I be all of that? Why?
I wanted to as well, and I had to choose.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. All had to choose. So that resonated to me as well, which brings me to the question, who would be the typical reader who could truly benefit from it? Because we want to get people to read this book because it's just an amazing experience that
thank
we
you.
don't recall.
Yes, thank you. I'm so glad that you all picked up on all of those notes too, because for me, this was my story, but I felt that it was also an ode to Black women everywhere, right? And so for who can read or who will benefit the most, target readers, definitely Black women will get a lot out of it because they'll be able to feel seen, feel understood, they'll get some of the cultural references firsthand. So that definitely. But then a secondary audience as well are the people that love, work with, love us, care for us. Those people, even the people that we care for, you know, need this insight into what we've experienced. And I think they will really benefit a lot from this. And then also anyone who's been through traumatic experience that they felt like maybe God was not there, like, where were you when this happened to me? I think those people that have been through some traumatic, especially rape, sexual assault, will find very, very inspiring the content of this book and actually learn some things about how I've dealt with some of those same things.
You know what I envisioned when I read this, when I finished reading it, a vagina monologues kind of show with women reading excerpts of this, because to read it, I'm hearing your voice and I'm hearing my voice. And I said, wouldn't that be amazing for it to be represented on stage by several different women in each phase of life that you have described? Young girl, the teenager, the girl
going off to college.
Look, I might have to pay you for that one.
Okay, girl, it's on tape. It's on tape.
Just kidding.
But no,
that's a great idea though.
To bring it on stage, you know, like For Colored Girls, because I always thought, and I read For Colored Girls in college, and I said, "Ooh, girl, that is deep." That was a little deeper than what
it's kind of heavy. It was a little heavy. This was not.
It's so relatable.
Heavy. Yeah.
So relatable. So, and I had not read poetry in a while.
Well, the thing about the way that I wrote this book was that I wanted it to be in poetry and prose, because I feel like poetry, it does something to really connect in a concise way to the universal themes and experiences that we all go through. So I wanted to do it in poetry,
Right.
but then I wanted it to read in everyday words and everyday language, and so that you wouldn't spend a lot of time trying to figure out what I'm trying to say, and you could actually get into it and get into the feeling, the raw emotion, the storytelling, and really put yourself in the room with me.
Well, it's very accessible, because when I first got the book, I thought, poetry, I got to get in the right headspace for poetry. Because, you got to when it's not prose, which is like popcorn. You just, but this does read, and it's like, oh, that wasn't hard. I know exactly what she was saying.
Yeah.
Right? And that pain, it sometimes just sneaks up and hits you.
Yeah.
Daddy's Confession. And we talk about how he doesn't recognize you, and it's like,
oh my God,
why doesn't he recognize you? Is it because he's had this accident and for whatever reason you've been wiped out, or you were actually wiped out because he didn't really know you before anyway?
Right.
You know?
And those are real questions, and questions that are unanswered to this day, and I probably will never get the answers to them. But that's the thing too that I love about poetry, is that you can ask questions that don't have answers.
That don't have an answer, but other people, I sat there and I read that and I was like, oh my,
Okay.
My, it's like I know what she's saying.
Yeah.
But my mind-blowing moment was, man, that feels like home.
Ooh.
Baby. I was like 3 poems in one. I said, this girl is a bad mother. Shut your mouth.
But I read Hair the same way. Because it was written the same way. You didn't leave directions to read it that way, but I started reading it straight down, and then the other column, and I said, nah, I could do it this way. And it worked that way. And then I was like, oh, you read it wrong. But it's like, well, it's already in my head. I already have it now. So there it is.
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was
because that's 3 poems. Peggy pointed out like 3 poems.
That was exquisite. I was like, yes, love it.
Appreciate it. I definitely wanted to get that poem in the book. It was one of the first poems that I had written, and I actually wrote it just as a regular poem straight through. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw someone do this, I saw another poet write a poem that could be read, column by column and straight across. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I wonder if I could do that with this poem. And I made very minor tweaks, and it ended up working out perfectly. And I just, I'm so glad I put it in, because at first I wasn't going to put it in. And then I'm like, you know what? I feel like I need a resolution to where I am now with men. And I am married, and so that poem was about my husband.
It was really, really beautiful. I enjoyed it. I read it up and down, across. And I was like, oh, this is so nice. I said, oh my God. It was it just kind of filled my, I guess my need and my crave for a certain kind of poem that would speak to me in different ways. And I thought did, and then reading it across kind of wrapped it up. I hope everyone goes out and get this book, because
there's a lot in here. I mean, there's another one.
There's so much.
9/11 in hood classrooms.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, because I have a son. He's graduating high school now. And we had a thing with one of his teachers early on. He was 13 years old, and there was a conversation about working papers. And I wasn't giving up the information for him to get working papers. Why did a 13-year-old need to work? Because in America, those that look like us need to get out in those fields and get to work. What you doing? Mm-hmm. So that was, my conversation with the lady who didn't look like me. But, the whole thing was 9/11 is, it's like the innocent people who died. It's like, when my friend gets killed in the street, sit down and shut up. You're right now. Pay attention. Right. When the innocent people get killed, you can't
they want us to stop everything. Right.
Okay.
And it's so that I love that you picked out that poem. Mm-hmm. I really did want to hold a mirror to society and examine all the ways that we instill innocence and guilt and particularly when it
Right.
comes to Black people, and where we also have no room to be vulnerable, no room to kind of recover. And so not only did that poem kind of highlight some of that innocence and guilt and how that is determined, but it also was a mirror too to the fact that we don't have time to process. We don't get time to process our grief. We just kind of have to move on it and keep going. And those lessons ended up manifesting itself, you know, later on when I was going through stuff. It was just like you just got to keep going.
Yeah.
And so in some ways it's good, and in some ways it's damaging because you don't get a chance to process and actually examine and deal with those issues.
So now, Nikki, are we going to have an audiobook?
That's a question a lot of people have been asking me.
Yeah.
So I would really love to do an audiobook, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I know that the way that I want to do an audiobook would be like with beats, and would be kind of like produced. Like I couldn't just have it being, you know, poetry read out loud. I would want music and it to feel like an experience and an album.
Okay, but then you just said there's two different things. Have the stage play that Peggy talked about, and then you can record it and have the album, and then just have these read, because they resonate, you know? And for a lot of people, you would hate for people who are visually impaired to miss out.
I know. And people that won't read a book, there are people that will never pick up a book no matter how catchy.
Right. But could you imagine if you're just driving, you know, you're making that commute, you're driving on the LIE and you're listening to Whether or Not, that's another one of my favorites. Whether or Not, and someone is just saying these words and you're hearing them. And it's like, that's right. That's right. God loves you, especially when you've been acting a fool.
Right.
Keep it in mind.
Especially when.
Especially when.
But Something to Cry About really made me think about my mother, you know?
Yeah.
Really made me think about my mother, you know, because that was certainly the lessons. And of course, I used to make me think about the
hobbies.
When I grew up in the Bronx, we had Play Street. It brought me back there. And I said, wow. I said, we are truly connected, although we think that we're not.
Yes. And I wanted readers to get that imagery, right, of girls dancing in the street to choreography, like all of that. This is all stuff that we've done, you know, and to really capture that jubilance of Black girlhood as kind of a stark contrast to some of the hurricanes that we've experienced. And it's like, in spite of, we still, you know, show up and we still do these magical things.
Exactly. Which speaks to, how did you come about the title? I mean, I know we're enjoying the play on the words with our hurricanes, but how did you get there?
So I titled it Home for Hurricanes because it was a metaphor for how I felt. I felt that as Black women and you know, myself, that I don't just go through hurricanes. I don't just go through storms. I actually internalize it and show a kind of put on my face to go out in the world. So people don't even know that I'm going through these things. And so that's why the metaphor is that we as Black women, we and myself in particular, are home for hurricanes. So this was about releasing that, being open, showing that up. And then it also speaks to the way that I structured the book into the 4 chapters. Home, which was about my childhood upbringing and some of the cultural things and foundational lessons that I learned from my single mom. And then closets, which is the stuff we don't talk about, like depression, the things that we don't even talk about to ourselves because we don't want to, like, we can't even voice that. So depression, some of the decisions that I made behind some of the faith changes that I've made, you know, religion and finding God. And then my identity, you know, trying to figure out who am I when people tell me that I'm only pretty or that I'm this or that. So closets was about that. And then hurricanes, which was the storm, right? And that was like one of the there had been some minor storms kind of all throughout, but hurricanes was the chapter where I was in college and, you know, experienced the rape. And so I wanted to put that in that hurricane chapter and talk really raw about emotions that I was feeling
Right.
then, and even how I felt about God, and then rebuilding, kind of coming out of that. And that's the longest chapter because it is the longest process when you think
Right.
about
Well,
actually a
even
storm.
in hurricanes and how you're just saying, look, you have to name it. They all have a
Mhm.
name. They all do destruction. You have to
Yes,
name this so that you can start cleaning up and rebuilding. You
right.
can't just, it didn't happen. It's not real. You have
No,
to
you
name it.
have to name it. Absolutely.
Well, this was wonderful. This was so
Yes.
wonderful. I am so
I'm
happy
so
that
glad.
you shared this time with us. I mean, because this was such an enriching, moment. I mean, and I haven't read, and to be completely honest, it's been hard for me to read because my mom passed like 4 years ago, and she and I were reading buddies, and we would read and
Mm,
discuss. So for me to actually commit to reading, it did good for me. 'Cause I was like, okay, I can get back, and
yes.
and it
Well,
was
I'm glad for that. I'm sorry to hear about your mother, but I'm so glad that you're back and you read this book, and I hope that some of the nods to motherhood in that
absolutely.
relationship helped.
Oh, absolutely. I heard her. I heard her in a couple of
Yes.
places. That's probably why it spoke to me because I heard her,
Yes.
So, so we want to know wherever it can be found. They can go on Amazon. Where can they find your book, Home for Hurricanes?
Yes, so my book is available wherever books are sold. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your indie bookstores. Go to any of their websites and order it. It's also available on my website, nikki-murphy.com. So you
Mhm.
can find a copy there. So
Okay.
whichever is convenient for you.
Barnes and Noble.
Yes,
I
Barnes
saw
and
it
Noble.
on Apple Books.
Apple iBook. So I have an ebook and a
Mhm.
paperback copy. So
Okay.
you can get the ebook wherever ebooks are sold, a Kindle,
Mhm.
Apple iBooks, Kobo. I don't know. I've never heard of Kobo before I published
Kobo,
it.
Goodreads. Yeah.
Yes, but it's there.
Look,
So
there's a lot of independent publishers out there. So basically,
yes,
wherever there's a space, you could find it.
wherever. And support your indie bookstores too. I know they're struggling through this time as well. So
Exactly. We just need to know who they are and where they are so we can support
I
them.
know.
You
I
know,
know.
I mean, and I think a whole nother time we need to come back to you on how you actually got published. That'll be a whole nother
Oh yes. Because I
discussion.
am a self-published author, so
See,
definitely can talk about
Okay.
that.
so we definitely need to bring you back on that and have another drink to celebrate that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's a
Yes.
Herculean effort right there.
Exactly. So until
Thank you.
next time, everybody,
Yes.
if you like this content, hit that like button, subscribe so that you know when we come back out with something else. But until next time, this is Urban Booze.
Signing off. We're exploring what's good.
Sip
Sip by
by
sip.
sip. Cheers.
Cheers.